to think that like what we get to bubble over is Jesus when we laugh and offer the goodness of who we are in the presence of somebody else to know the goodness of who they are, I consider really like a holy privilege and honor is to be rooted in the goodness of who Jesus is and to offer joy.
Welcome to Permission Slips, a space for you to practice paying attention to your life with self-compassion and kindness so you can experience the wholeness, purpose, and joy you were made for. I'm Jillian DeBritz, a life and leadership coach and a recovering perfectionist, learning alongside you how to give myself permission to be human. I am so glad that you are here with me today for this conversation with my friend, Kelsey Jenney. Kelsey, thank you for coming. This is so sweet. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I wish people could see you. Listeners, I just want you to know that Kelsey has the biggest smile on her face and it's like overflowing. Her joy is effervescent. And so, Kelsey, I'm just noticing that I have tears already because of our conversation before we started recording. I can't wait to see what happens here. So context, Kelsey and I are friends, but we became friends because Kelsey is friends with my husband, Corey, which is, I feel like most people I have on the podcast met through Corey. But Kelsey says she has the best job in the whole wide world working on Young Life staff in Michigan. She's been on staff with the mission of Young Life for 20 years in a variety of roles. And she's also a certified spiritual director, a certified Enneagram Harmony Triad practitioner, and also holds a certification from the Transforming Center in Spiritual Formation. And she's just finishing her master's degree in spiritual formation. So all the spiritual formation certificates.
So much forming.
You are ready to be formed and help form us. But outside of Young Life, in order to really know Kelsey, you need to know about her doggies.
Girl.
She has a deep love for all things animals, especially her SnuggleBears, Moose, Messy, and Molly, her newest dog. Yes.
Little puppers.
Oh my gosh, those peppers. And I will just say one of my favorite things about Kelsey and her relationship with her puppy babies is Kelsey every year does a photo shoot.
Yes.
True or false? Yes.
That is very true. Yes.
Talk about the photo shoot, Kelsey. What do you do with your dogs?
Yeah, it started, I don't even remember like why it really officially, it wasn't something that we thought would be like every year. And like, but essentially the bottom line was I wanted to send out Christmas cards and it was just Mason and Milo at the time who have since passed. And one of my best friends from college, Emily, is a photographer. And so we started really small and it just grew and grew around like a theme and costuming. And it is like Emily and I always say it's like one of our favorite things to do together. It's fun. Yeah. So our Christmas cards are like themed and everyone's got a costume and there's so it's just.
There's like a whole set, if I remember.
Yeah.
It's like.
But the thing I love to tell people is it's a one-take wonder. So there's no like actual Photoshop or editing and everything in the shot is like in the shot, if that makes any sense. So like we're not like I have built the set. I have given the costumes. The dogs are performing well. Like
oh my gosh. Can you give some examples of like what you have done in certain?
The most famous, I think by far is famous, like as if it's like, but the one.
Oh, it's a big deal.
Poor choice of words. World renowned. The one that gets the most attention is the one with Mason and Milo at my parents' dining room table. They're in like full tuxedos, like, and not dog tuxedos. It's like kid tuxedos that I like shoved their bodies into. And they are truly sitting at the dining room table, like full on in chairs. My dad's holding Milo's hips. Like it's,
Oh my gosh.
So that one gets a lot when I plugged myself into the wall as a Christmas tree and their presents. And then Santa Claus Moose played Santa Claus one year and that gets a lot. So I built him legs, which is like really hard. It was really tricky to do, but
yeah, it was hard to build legs for your dog. That's very not surprising.
It's a weird gift I have now.
Oh my gosh. Kelsey, I hope that people find you on Instagram is it Doodle Diva?
Doodle Diva. Yes. And I always tell people I did that because that's when when Instagram was first on or whatever, like you had to like kind of like make up handles, so that's why now that I Doodle Diva, I'm like, people will refer to me as Doodle Diva and I love that. I'm like,
part of your identity now. Yeah, totally. So people need to go and find you and scroll to past Christmas photo shots and then they can see this year. Do you know what you're doing this year yet?
You know what? I have some ideas. This is like right around the time of year where like I'm on Amazon. I'm like trying to figure out like what I could shove their bodies into. Like it's like there's an art form to this that like takes me a little while, but yeah, I have a thought. It's just the execution of the thought. So
Totally. Oh my gosh. Well, Kelsey, there's so much I love about you, but like this is not like a show that you put on to look like a dog person. Like this is fully who you are. Like you love with all of your heart
I
your sweet doodles.
do.
And totally. So to hear you talk about your dogs. Other thing that when I think of you, Kelsey, I think in exclamation points.
I love you.
Yes. Corey told me when we first started communicating over email, I think it was maybe last year, you came to
Yeah.
a women's retreat I was helping plan and did a great job speaking. And he was like, just so you know, when you communicate with Kelsey in writing, 3 exclamation marks is like a period. If you just like, that's a normal sentence. And then more than that, you're going to get increasing levels of
So
enthusiasm,
funny. It was
which
I
is
met
true.
this woman that I had been communicating with. I was doing this thing in New York City, had not ever met her before. And my friend Aswan, it was his admin. And so she, I guess, went to Aswan at one point and was like, why is this woman yelling at me about everything? Let me see. And then same thing, he goes, she's just talking to you. Like
Oh my gosh.
she's like not
This is who
yelling.
she is. Oh my word. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, and people who have interacted with you in person know that the other thing that makes you really distinct, well, there's so much about you that's unique and interesting and fun and contagious. But your laugh, I was going to say, your laugh.
Totally.
I just love when you talk. I remember as you were doing you came to Ellensburg at one point in the
Yeah.
last few years also and spoke at a Young Life banquet, if I remember. But I love hearing you talk and you like in the beginning, you're like, yes, this is my real laugh. This is my real hair.
I'm like, I look like a cartoon character. I can breathe. Here we go. Yeah. You know, it's like just making sure everyone in the room's on the same page. So
Oh my gosh,
that's
it's so
so funny.
good.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes me think about one of our mutual friends, Katie Davis, who's also
Yes.
on Young Life staff. She describes you as the unique blend of hilarity and sincerity, which is totally how
Oh,
I think of you, right? Like laughter
yeah.
and depth, like
Mhm.
both are
Yeah.
compatible and true. Like as you think about who you are, I'm so curious, what's important to you about humor and joy and laughter as you
Yeah.
seek to help people know God, both in your work as a spiritual director and as a Young Life staff person, speaker, and just in who you are? Like, why does laughter matter?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know what's funny is it's this is like kind of a backwards way to answer it, but I have realized like the joy of Jesus is something we don't talk about. And I think he would have been, you can't be that captivating and unbelievable and have people want to be around you and be basically sullen or like stoic. Or I just think he had to have exuded so much joy. And this is like a funny aside, but I'm in this new rhythm I found over the summer from just being home more. I have been been going to Pilates, which I'm like loving and hating all in the same breath. But it's funny just the joy, like to walk in and to offer joy to somebody next to you for no other reason than to like want to give that gift that day. I've
Yeah.
just realized it would be so much of the way of Jesus. And so I think for me, like in order to know the heart of God, to know that joy abounds, even when situations and circumstances are not perfect, that there is such a richness and a rootedness in laughing and in being fully present with the person around you, in being able to offer just the goodness of being human and as messy as it is and as wonderful as it is, I just have found like, yeah, to be able to laugh. And Lamont says, I think it's Lamont.
Yeah.
She says
Yeah.
laughter is carbonated holiness. And I just have loved that. Like to think that like what we get to bubble over is Jesus when we laugh and offer the goodness of who we are in the presence of somebody else to know the goodness of who they are. I just think, and I wish this is like one of the questions I have is like, I think scripture itself doesn't include like how funny he would have been, you know?
Hmm.
And how just joyful he would have appeared to others. And so it's just something that I consider really like a holy privilege and honor to be able to steward well in this world is to be rooted in the goodness of who Jesus is and to offer joy. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
honestly even when circumstances aren't perfect, you know, because I think
Mm,
there's a holiness and a way to touch Jesus in that for others. And I think it's way more inviting to the world around us. Yeah. So it's a big part of the way I know him.
totally. Well, and there's so many questions that come up for me as you talk about that. The first being, how did you discover joy and laughter and
Yeah.
life and fun as a way of knowing Jesus? How did you get to know that part of
That's a
him?
great question. Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I think part of it, what I've realized, and this is like, so the theme I would say I like if you have ever heard me speak at anything, tov meod, which is what God says about who we are in Genesis, and that he didn't make us good, he made us very good. And the way that I would say it is the best of the best of the very, very best. And the reason that is like so unbelievably important to give away is because it's the way that I know and understand myself in the world around me. And so when I speak, that's the crux, right? It's like the thing I go back to, like this is who you are. And it seems so juvenile and so simple. And yet if you ask any human being walking around if they feel like the Lord God has made them the best of the best of the very, very best, regardless of what they have done or what they ever will do. It has nothing to do with how they feel about themselves. It's a fact about you. And yet, for so many of us, it feels so far from true. And what I realized, I have this giant hair, I have this big laugh. I'm like, in a lot of ways, I'm like, I take up a lot of space. And what I've realized is to be able to offer that in fun and in joy is like such a rich invitation to the rest of the world around me to also offer themselves in joy and in fun and in celebration. And so I always say, like, it's the truest thing I know to tell the world around me because it's the truest thing I know that the Lord's given me personally,
Mm.
to not have to shrink down or figure something else out or maintain a standard, right? But that like my giant hair and my big laugh can actually be a way that the world would know him. And I think probably like through the ministry and the mission of Young Life, right? I realized that God was bigger than this thing you go to on Sunday mornings. But I think in my own experience with him, I realized like there is so much goodness, not only in laughing about who we are and like how God has made us and then falling in love with that, but then being able to see the world around us and to know that even if I cannot see it today, our God is still working and that he is still joyful and that there is humor that will abound. And like to laugh is to grab a piece of that carbonated holiness today and to hang on to it. And so I think like in this like weird, funny mix of the Lord made me a cartoon character. I like live life as a cartoon character, and so then to steward that and give that away is to know him more intimately and more deeply.
Mm.
And I love that those things can commingle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we don't, it is a serious thing of faith and it also is a joyful thing called faith. And so
Yeah.
I think those two things together help me live a richer and fuller life alongside of the Lord. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's so good, Kelsey. And I think you're right that so many of us who follow Jesus or have been in a posture of pursuing faith, growing in faith for a number of years, so many of us have lost the truth that this is good. Like this journey is good
Yeah.
and there's joy. That's actually I think it's in the Gospel of John when Jesus is talking about the reason he's telling us all the things about how to follow him, how to love him, how to let ourselves be loved by him, how to abide and remain in his love is so that our joy will be complete.
Yeah.
Like that's the ultimate aim is like as we know God more and more fully and let ourselves be known by him and
Yeah.
by others, joy is the outcome.
Yeah.
And so I love that you're naming that. Like what a
Yeah.
gift to give that carbonated holiness
Yeah.
away.
Totally.
It makes me wonder, as you were talking about taking up a lot of space, like the big laugh, big hair, big personality, which I love about you. And I
Yeah.
love the freedom with which you own
Yeah.
who you are and how God's made you. It makes me wonder, and this is coming from my own journey of often feeling like too much.
Yeah.
As someone with a lot of words, a lot of big emotions, a body that is not petite.
Yeah.
And, I'm tall and all of these things where it's not always seen as a good thing or a valuable thing to be big or take up space.
Mhm.
What's it look like for you to see that as a beautiful gift that you bring the world to show up in the bigness of who you are?
Yeah. I always tell people if you really knew me, I'm like a hermit. Like I
Hmm.
love my house. I love the boys, right? I love my Wugglekins. Like, those are my dogs. Like I love
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm like just to clarify. But I have really found like, yes, I'm a homebody at heart. And yet there is this like bubbling up for me of what will the Lord do today? Like what will he do in the next 5 minutes when I go to the grocery store or when I interact with somebody, at Pilates or when I'm speaking at something. And so I think for me, it really has been this. I remember this man, I remember him saying to me at one point, I had given my like life story at something, and he was like basically asking the question, like, well, you're single. And he's like, who do you think would quote unquote like handle you? And
Mm.
that's always like stuck out to me as this thing that's like, like almost this like, oh, because this could be bad for somebody, right? That it would be like I would
Wow.
be too much or I would show up as too much or, and even like in those little moments where a twinge of what you might think is true is spoken back to you, I in those moments rest in like, oh, but the Lord has called me very good. And so then my invitation is to see the person in front of me as very good, right? So I don't have this expectation of I need to show up and like I mean, I am loud, but you know what I mean? Be loud and be extravagant and be noisy and be busy and be all that. I get to show up exactly as how the Lord's designed and created me. And then to the person in front of me, discover and uncover how the Lord has designed and created them. And I think what that has done for me is instead of like, I get to show up big and take up the space, and you get to show up small because I'm taking space. Instead, it's like in exchange of presence. And I really think that's how the Lord, I mean, I really believe Jesus was countercultural in the way that he lived and in the way that he loved. And I think that for an aching world to say, you get to show up exactly as you are, and I get to show up exactly as I am. And we get to watch what God uncovers in the next 5 minutes, in the next 5 months, in the next 5 years. It makes all of those exchanges so much more inviting and authentic. And so I think truthfully, like I have not always loved, I should say, what God has made me to be. But if I really recognize that part of the invitation every day is to fall more in love with who God has made me to be and to celebrate that and to like say thank you for that, what it has helped me do is see him and know him and love him and not try to pull apart and pick apart what I think should be different, but instead to say to the Lord, "Oh, today I love the way my like this one curl. I love it. Like, thank you, Lord. It curled so well today." Then in like how I feel about something else, I'm like, "Oh, Lord, I want to welcome you into the fact that I still have an ache, whether it's for my singleness or because I've got two other meetings tonight that I'm anxious about or so it's this interplay between the Lord and I of this is what I love and thank you, thank you, thank you and thank you for showing up here and this is what I hope to be different, whether it's about me or about my circumstances or about my situations. And when I think it unfolds, Jillian, is this like what a gift it is to be in the world. Ruth Haley Barton
Mm.
always says to be in the presence of the one that's always present. And so when I show up big, I know my God's showing up bigger, and that's kind of
Mm.
fun to think like Jesus has me in this place and space for a reason today. I want to watch what he unfolds. So it's not so much about falling in love with myself, but falling in love with who Jesus has made me to be and what that allows and invites to the world around me.
Yeah.
And that's just it's a little bit of a posture change, I think, too, that my heart would have in mind the heart of things of what God cares about, and that helps me fall in love with myself and with the world around me that I'm not trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense, but yeah, that's kind of my little on ramp
Yeah.
in, I think.
Well, and it's not even a sense of like, let me figure out how great I am so I can love
Totally.
myself, so I can
Y
be myself. It's like, oh, let
Yes.
me see myself and others and the world
Yes.
through the lens of God who made it all
Yes.
and who says I'm good. And if I say I believe him and I trust him, that means I believe and trust the fact that he's made me the best of the very,
Yes.
very best. Are there ever days where you don't believe that or feel
Oh my
that?
gosh, yeah.
And if so, what do you do in those days?
Lord, how is it ever true?
Yeah, like, that's it, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the journey. So how do you yeah, have that authentic wrestling in a way that moves you forward from that
Well,
place of wondering to believing?
yes. And that's the funny part too is like it's like we all get to have the image of God. We all bear the image of who he is. We all hold Imago Dei. We all are the best of the best of the very, very best. So like it's a fact and not a feeling. And yet it can feel far from true. And I think on those days to be able to say there's a welcoming prayer by Thomas Keating. And on those days to say, I welcome, Lord, I welcome the insecurity I have. I welcome the misunderstandings. I welcome the loneliness. I welcome that I mean, I think for me this summer, so much of what the journey has been in Pilates, which is probably why I keep talking about it, is like this journey into like, oh, I actually get to love this strong, sturdy body that the Lord has made that I have had a love-hate relationship with ever since I was little. And so to be able to say like, I get to fall in love more each day with what God has done, with who I am, with who he's making me to be. And then on those days where it feels far from true to be able to I don't wanna offer a platitude to myself of like, "Well, and didn't you know?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know that, and today doesn't feel like that." And that's why I think
Mm,
it's so funny. It's such a simple truth, and yet it is an everyday, every moment, holy breathing in of like, "The Lord loves me, the Lord loves me, the Lord loves me, the Lord loves me." Like, he loves me as much as when I'm sitting on this couch as he does when I'm interacting with people at the grocery store, as much as he does when I'm talking self-talking about how much I don't like my body, as much as he is when I'm, like, speaking at something like that. I think the beauty of the Lord's reign of his love over you and I is the truest thing to root myself into, because that is not fleeting, and that is a constant, and that is a forever. And so I think on the days where it feels far from true, I just get to say, welcome, Jesus, welcome into the feeling that I'm
Mm.
having today. That is not fact, that is just feeling, and to feel God's presence dwell so deeply, to be like, I know it sucks. Like today, that sucks, but I don't need to bear that alone. And as silly as that might sound, right? Like, I'm a 42-year-old woman who is still trying to figure out my relationship with my own like physical appearance. And yet I get to stand on stages and tell people this is the truest thing about you, because it's the truest thing I want to know about myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Um yeah, I always say to people who want to be speakers is like, you have to give away the gospel that you deeply long for to know to be true every breath you take, because
Yeah.
that is the truest thing, the most authentic thing you can give away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Not what
yeah,
you know to be true in your mind, what you want to intellectually assent to, but
yeah,
what you are experiencing and receiving for yourself every
yes,
day.
yeah,
Yeah. It's interesting. I was thinking about that sense of being loved by God and how simple and difficult it is
yeah.
to believe that and return to that. And just before, as we were starting to record, the doggies needed some attention and
They
they needed
needed
some
some
care. So we took a break
time.
and you took your dogs on a walk, which gave me
Yeah,
permission to take my dog on a walk. And then I came back and we still had a few minutes. And I'm like, Lord, I am exhausted.
yeah,
And I just need to know that it's okay for me to be exhausted. It's
yeah,
okay for me to feel depleted and to know that I actually feel like I have nothing to offer today
yeah.
or this week.
Mm,
And so I sat in my living room and I have this app called the Centering Prayer app. Um, and it's basically a guided meditation into the presence of God. And that for me just means clearing my mind of anything else but the reality of his presence. And the phrase that kept coming to my mind as I turn on my 5-minute timer to try to clear my mind, which is the hardest work. The phrase that I kept returning to, that I'm just going to assume was the Lord's gift
mm,
for me in that moment, was be loved,
mm,
be loved,
mhm,
be loved. And the power of just sitting in a moment of quiet and allowing myself to be loved
mhm.
by God. I mean, that was what I needed. And I was so aware, even on my walk, of how much I feel this need to be pouring out constantly. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. Like there's a lot of things that I'm doing right now that are a lot of output,
Yeah,
right? And I'm sure you do the same in your leadership and speaking and direction. Like there's just a lot of places to pour out to others. And I want that to be what my life is a pouring out to other people. And yet the more of those things I'm doing, the more I'm speaking or writing or whatever it is, leading, the more desperate I am to sit
yeah,
in the silence and just be loved by God. So that's an aside, but also just connecting with that idea of, man, it is the hardest work to
yeah,
be still and let myself and to believe that I'm loved even when I'm not producing.
yeah,
Um,
totally. Yeah.
you took a break this summer, a sabbatical, a rest. What was it like for you to step away from your work of ministry and rest?
I loved it.
Hmm.
So, like, for people that don't know, like, for Young Life staff people, you go on these, like, assignments, which are, like, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Sometimes in the summers, I would do multiple. I love them. I love watching kids hear about Jesus. I love the community that's built in assignment. I love camp. I mean, I love what we get to do in our mission and in our ministry. I could tell last summer I was so tired. Like, and it wasn't because it was bad. It was wonderful. I had the best assignment. But honestly, Jillian, I had a friend who sent me a message, a text. She would have had no idea of any of this. And she said, I had a dream about you, and the Lord wants to give you a real rest. And it was a little bit more detailed than that, but I knew exactly what it was. I knew that the Lord was asking me to just be with him, which for I've done 20 summers in a row.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never had a summer off, and keep it I never wanted a summer off, like, that's not to, like, pat myself on the back. I just genuinely have loved every ounce of them, but I could tell last summer, I just kept saying, "I'm just tired," like, I just was tired and realized that, got the text from my friend actually, her name is Jillian, and I just knew what the Lord was saying, and so, I this summer, I just f I think for the first time in my life, like, separated and like worked through with the Lord on what it is to just be a person, like the beauty of personhood versus position, or profession. I think for as much as I long to be loved by Jesus, realized I really sometimes, and I think this is still true today, think the best thing about me is what I can give away to somebody. It's the reason that people like me or want me to come to their stuff or whatever, all of those little tiny lies that like kind of intertwine to become these tiny truths that we can pull or pick apart. And one of the quotes I love is Kurt Thompson says, every newborn comes into the world looking for someone looking for him or her. Like we all do want to be seen and known and loved. And that's not a bad thing. It's true about each one of us as being humans. And what I realized this summer, I think in the sweetness and the simplicity of what I got to live was the Lord being like, I see you. Like I see you in the simple and the mundane and the ordinary. It led me to getting a third dog, which started summer I never said yes to in a million years. Like, I have just soaked in the richness of what it is to call home my actual home, and that to
Mm.
me has felt like such a privilege and an honor, and, like, I keep mentioning Pilates, which is kind of funny, but, like, to be in the studio with I try to go 5 days a week. The reason I try to do that is because the membership is so dang expensive, like, it has to make sense
Totally.
financially. Like, these classes have to be $10 and you have to go 5 days a
Yes.
week to make them $10, but
Totally.
to, like, sit next to women and to giggle and, like yeah, I think, like, little me has felt what it's like to just be, wrapped in love, in, like, offering nothing to the world except the silliness of 3 dogs and the simplicity of getting to say yes to things and just the ordinary sense of, like, going upstairs and going to bed in my own bed. I mean, I just travel so much that yeah, to go to the grocery store and to build these relationships and friendships and to realize, like, I get to give away Jesus by saying hello to my neighbor as much as I do by telling kids about him or doing direction with somebody. It just has felt like the most honoring and, like, sweet exhale that
Mm.
I just didn't I knew that I needed last summer. I think I could touch it, but to be totally honest, was afraid of what it would feel like when you've done something one way for so long.
Yeah.
All those little, like, people will forget and nobody will invite you to stuff or, I mean, it's all those, like, little lies of you've gotta keep up, and, yeah, I gardened a lot, I did Pilates a lot, I drank a ton of coffee. And I think I just realized, like, again, it's, like, such a simple like, the Lord really loves the little life that he's given me and
Mm.
really loves to live that little life with me, and it's a
Mhm.
little life, it's a little silly life, um, that I just found joy over and over and over again. So, yeah, it's just been so wonderful, the presence of God, just feeling wrapped in that this summer on this couch and with these dogs. So, say that it's marked me is probably a little too trite, I think, for what it, like,
Mm.
really has been for me, and I think I'm still kind of unpacking that as my, like, season starts to unfold now. But I can usually tell, like, when God's doing something, it's like these little tears that just fall, like, one by
Yeah.
one. And this is
Right.
another Ruthism, but Ruth always says, "Our tears are our soul's way of expressing itself before we have language." And so
Wow.
like, always pay attention when it's just feels, like, effortless,
Yeah.
'cause I just know that God's like, "Yeah, I was up to something,"
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. Ruth Healy Barton says that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, our
The
truth, our soul's
tears.
way. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, that was my question that was bubbling up as I was watching.
yeah,
People that are just listening can't see the tenderness of your face and the tears that are streaming down your cheeks. And my
yeah.
question was, where are the tears coming from for you
Yeah.
right now, even in this moment?
Yeah, I think I've just fallen in love with, like, God who just, like, wants to nestle up to us. Like, I think I
Mm.
love that God is big and he's can do more than we ask or imagine and nothing's impossible, all those verses we, like, can pick through, but I think I've, like, reestablished in my heart and maybe in my mind that our God is the God of Mark 1 who, like, just holds us and helps us and comes to find us, and I think the sweetest thing that, my God, your God, our God, like, all he really wants is to hold us and to help us. It's, like, so personal as much as it is so kind, like, there's a
Mm.
kindness in that between our God and us, and I think I love that our God is deeply personal that way. That he really does wanna hold us and help us. That's, like, the truest thing he wants is to nestle up on the couch with us and just be like, what are we doing
Mm.
today, girl?"
Oh, I
How's it
love
gonna be
that.
for you and I today?" And
Yeah.
that I to me, it's like reestablishing, like, yeah, that he loves us when we and cozies up to us in a way that I think,
Mhm.
yeah, my soul longed for,
Yeah.
so Yeah.
apart from anything you do, apart from what
Yes.
productive work you do in the world or the
Yes.
purpose you're fulfilling. And that's, I mean, hearing you say that is just such a deep longing of my heart,
Yeah.
too. And that work, that constant work of choosing to remember
Yeah.
that it's who we are that Jesus loves, not what we do for him that earns his affection.
Yeah.
And man, how much do I need to practice that in my real life with real people, too?
Yes.
I think about how our dogs are such a beautiful way of experiencing that. Or like with kids, I don't love my kids because of how much they appreciate me or
Right.
how much they do for me, how much they help around the house. I love them just
Yeah.
because I'm delighted in who they
Yeah.
are. But man, Kelsey, it's hard work for me. Maybe it's not hard work for everyone. It's hard work for me to remain in that posture of believing
Mm,
that who I am is worthy of love
mhm,
by God and by others without doing a thing.
mhm.
And I'm wondering for anyone else that struggles with that, like, how have you, or what would you say to people who are like, yeah, I want to know the God who wants to nestle up on the couch with me and
Mhm.
hold me and help me? Like, what would you say to someone who wants to know God like that, but doesn't experience him in that way yet?
Yeah. I think honestly, and this sounds so silly, and I say it when I do spiritual direction with people all the time, like, when you're on the couch, you get to say to him, like, "Do you like this show?" We're talking about an active living relationship with the God of the universe. Like when coffee, I'm like, Lord,
Mhm,
thank you so like it is not this monumental, I have to sit down for
mm,
30 minutes and like tell you everything. If he is truly in and wound and woven into the fiber of who we are, into the very being that he has breathed, like the way I say it is wad into existence, like, whoa, there you are. It's so he wants to know, like, right now, Messi, my dog's next to me. I'm like, "Lord, thank you for Messi. Like, he was an unexpected gift. I love him." Like, it's just I want to and I keep saying Ruth a lot too on this, but, like, to be present to the one that's always present does not mean that I need to sit down and do a 30-minute quiet time. I mean, I
mhm.
can, and I'm invited to do that, but the way I try to start my day is I lay face down and I just ask the Lord, "Would every fiber of my being be attuned and attached to every fiber of what you're offering me today?" I know I'm
Wow.
gonna screw it up, but, like, the fact that I start my day face down with Jesus to say, I long to be attuned to you today, to know every ounce of what you're offering me and inviting me into, and I wanna just spend our day together." So, when I'm drinking coffee, it's telling the Lord, "I'm having a great cup of coffee," or, when I see somebody at my local grocery store, "Oh, Lord, they're so great," like, "Thank you for them," or a coat I really like, I'm like, "Jesus, you're so creative. I hope I can afford that someday." Like, don't stop the dialogue. If anything, it's like, I mean, it really is like this reoccurring, thread chat, like group chat with you,
Yeah.
Jesus, and, the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit and God. Like the Trinity's on
Yeah.
a group chat.
I love that.
And
Yes.
I think we've gotten so serious about the business of being with Jesus. I think there's place for that, obviously. But I think what our God delights in, and if you think about him with the disciples, it's the sweet and the ordinary and the simple. Like we're going to walk together and we're going to talk together and we're going to eat together and we're going to laugh together. And in those moments to bring myself back to like, oh Lord, this is so good. And I am so grateful. And you are here, to be present,
Mm,
the one that's always present is to tune my heart back to him. And whether it's to say thank you or to breathe that I need you or to just offer myself an ounce of compassion in a moment that's difficult, I just want for every fiber of my being to be attached to him in the world. And truly, Jillian, I mean, part of that is because everything else is pulling for my attention, right? And
right.
I say this to kids all the time and to adults, like everything in the world will fail me, fool me, and forget me, but it becomes the loudest voice. And I don't think it's not lost on me, I should say, that in Genesis, the first question that God asks human beings is, where are you? Like, where are you physically, emotionally, spiritually? Like, even to drive and have that conversation with the Lord, or who are you listening to? Like, what voices are informing your world? Is it your own negative self talk that you've been listening to more this day? Like, to ask the Lord to hear him more loudly, and then what have you been doing? Like, those three questions that God asks human beings in Genesis, like, those become three pivotal ways to just talk to the Lord throughout your day. Like, gosh, I'm replaying that conversation I had with that friend at coffee. I think I feel bad about this part of it. Or I don't like what I said in this meeting. I should probably revisit that. Lord, is that something that you would invite me into? Even truly, see, now I'm getting excited. Like, even if a friend shows up at coffee, instead of saying, how are you? Just saying, where have you been today? Like, where have you, I mean, and I teach a class on Wednesday nights called Rhythms of Listening, Ways to Listen to Jesus. And, even to say to the women who showed up last week, who have you been listening to? And it's unbelievable the voices that inform our day, and then to
Mm.
say to the Lord, could you be the loudest voice? All those,
Mm.
they seem so little, and yet they are so pivotal for this like relationship that we long to have. And it's a relationship, so we need to treat it like one. And I think
Wow.
that's where we've lost a little bit of our accessibility, and his attentiveness to us, right? If he lives and breathes in me closer than my very breath, I better be talking to him, why wouldn't
Yeah.
I be?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh, that's so beautiful, Kelsey. That awareness, that attunement to pay attention to his presence with us and for us every
yeah,
moment of every day. And that's such hard work. Like you said, there's so much pulling for our attention. Um, yeah, to learn to pay attention to the one who's paying attention to us
yes,
and to believe that takes energy, that takes
yeah,
effort, that takes, choosing to lay down other things pulling for our attention at times, or I'm hearing even like a conscious choice to notice the gifts that he's given you. Like, oh, thank you for this coffee, or hey, I like that coat, or man, my hair curl looks great. Like to notice and name. Like that's something that in coaching we talk about a lot is like, let's notice and name with words and often in our out loud voice, what is the good gift that you see? Or like, what is the progress that you see? The thing that you want to celebrate that
yeah,
you're experiencing, the growth that you've seen. And I love those questions as a
yeah,
framework, even for how can we pay attention to our lives? Where are you? And what voices are you listening to? What have you been up to?
yes.
Um, that's so powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just think the way of Jesus is presence. I mean, that's why I love
Mhm.
like, today, Molly had his puppy class, and she said, "Dogs are present in the moment."
Yes.
I do think our God was that he wasn't concerned about, I mean, I just think all of the things that flood our minds and our hearts and try to gain our attention, it's like, we have the attention of the one who made the world and made our own
Mm,
our very hearts. Like, why would we not, want to return to him 10,000 times over every day to say
yeah.
thank you and to gently notice where we need grace and to, and I think honestly, Jillian, it makes us people who then give other people permission just to be fully present where they are as well,
Yeah.
yeah, that we're offering to someone in front of us, like, I want to be present and available to you the way that Jesus is. Would you want to do that with me? And so the interaction isn't trying to perform for each other. It's trying to be presence for and with one another. And I think that's just such a more way of Jesus in the world offering and way to be.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's so good. And I know that's a lot of the work you do as a spiritual director as
Okay.
well. So if people are interested in spiritual direction, can you give like a 1 minute overview of what direction is and how they can connect with you if that's something that they wanted to look into?
Yeah, spiritual direction, to be honest, I, like, accidentally fell into it. I was like, "Do what?" Yeah. It was a requirement in finishing and starting the Transforming Center was that you had to, I don't know if this is still true, but you had to have a spiritual director. Anyway, I Googled mine. I mean, it's like a hilarious story we don't have time for, but she's amazing and I love her so much. But spiritual direction really is the art of listening or holy listening. The way I would phrase it is, it feels like counseling. You are across from a person, but the spiritual director is really, they're not there to problem solve or fix. They really are to go a layer deeper, to ask another question, to pray into something that they notice or are listening to or hear, and to really invite the Holy Spirit to bring the question, the conversation, the prayer, whatever that is, between you and another person. And so really our God is the director of the conversation of the session. It usually lasts about an hour or maybe a little bit more. You typically see your spiritual director once a month. There's reasons to see them a little bit more potentially if you're trying to discern something, but it really is a way to go. I always say to go a layer deeper between what are you and Jesus talking about, and what is he saying to you? Where is he inviting you? Maybe where are you stuck, which is a big one, or what feels difficult. And so it really is the art of holy listening, just listening to a soul in God's presence and what God might want to say to that person. I always say it's like the least religious feeling thing in the sense of like there's no magic to it. It really is just listening as the Lord leads. And so it has
Mhm.
become one of really the things I feel most honored to do in the world with others is just to listen to Jesus on their behalf and with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. It's a sweet gift. Yeah.
How would people connect with you if they wanted to reach out about
Yeah.
direction?
So I have a little website. So Doodle Diva is the easiest because my last name is Jenny, which is the same as a girl's first name, but it's spelled differently. So there's a whole slew of issues with that. But it's Kelsey Jenney, JENNEY.com. And then there's a spiritual direction link on there. Or
Great.
like the Doodle Diva Instagram has the website on there as well. So yeah, so both
Awesome.
of those places.
Perfect.
But yeah.
Well, Kelsey, this has been so rich, and the gift of your presence is
Yeah.
such a treasure to me, and I know to the people listening too. So thank you for that. Before we close here, is there a permission slip that you would want to give to people?
My gosh, cool.
It's kind of the thing we do. Yeah.
Permission slip I would like to give to people is, well, I will say to use your exclamation button. People are not doing that. You can use that exclamation point button. It's not just there for like a one-off. You can use it all the time.
As
But
much as you want. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And get as many dogs as you want. But I would say the truest one I would want to say is just to welcome it all in God's presence. Like allow, I think we serve so many platitudes because we try to figure it out or brush it off, or we want to have the best advice or whatever it is, fix the problem. And I think really the Lord is saying, like, would you just welcome this in my presence and trust that I am the God of the universe and the God of your very heart. And I think to welcome it is not to make sense of it, but to name what is real and to let the Lord hold that with you. And I think that to me, that welcoming has become maybe one of the sweetest things that I feel permission to give myself and the world around me is just to welcome Jesus, welcome into what is. So yeah.
Wow. I love that. To name what is real. Let God hold it with you. That's beautiful. Thanks for being here, Kelsey. This is a gift. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Permission Slips podcast. I hope this conversation will give you permission to pay attention to the presence of God in your everyday moments, and to know the one who is paying attention to you, and to believe that you are the best of the very, very best. Remember, your life matters, and so does your joy, more than you know.